The hiss hit first sharp, burning, slicing through the quiet of our street, and then came my wife's scream. I spun just in time to see Karen, our HOA president, arm outstretched, pepper spray spraying right into Laura's face, like she was some kind of criminal. Laura's wheelchair jerked back as she coughed, clawing for breath, eyes red, skin stinging. Neighbors froze on their lawns, mouths open. And Karen? She just smirked, clipboard in hand, like she'd done something noble. Community safety comes first. Can you imagine? She sneered. Yeah, attacking a disabled woman was apparently her version of order. Thing is, what none of them realized, least of all Karen, was who she was messing with. Laura isn't some helpless victim to judge. A damn tough one. And that HOA queen was about to learn what real authority looks like. But let me back up a sec. This all started long before the spray. This story? It's why I've got a full-blown vendetta against HOAs. Moving day should have been a happy one. New house, new neighborhood, fresh start. Laura was excited finally a space where she could actually breathe, not like our old apartment that was more obstacle course than home. Weeks of planning had gone into making sure every corner, every piece of furniture, every delivery was wheelchair-friendly. By the time the truck rolled up, Laura had this smile, pure relief, pure joy. The kind that says, finally, we can live. I was hauling boxes, dripping sweat, when I heard the click of heels on the driveway. At first, I thought maybe a neighbor was stopping by. Welcome pie, handshake, that kind of old-school thing. Nope, it was Karen. She looked like she'd stepped straight off the set of a political drama. Blazer crisp, hair sprayed into a golden helmet, clipboard clutched like it held the secrets of the universe. Her gaze flicked over me, over Laura directing boxes, and then she spoke, all teeth and no warmth. I'm Karen, president of Pinehurst Meadows HOA. I personally greet new residents to ensure they know our expectations. Expectations, right? That wasn't a welcome. That was an inspection. I wiped sweat from my forehead, extended a hand. James, and this is my wife, Laura. We're settling in. Her handshake was limp, dead weight. Eyes immediately locked on the ramp we'd installed that morning. Is this permanent? She asked, tapping her pen against the clipboard. Yes, Laura said flatly. Karen's smile didn't budge. Any exterior modification must be board approved. Wheelchair or not, we have aesthetic standards. She actually used the word industrial. Industrial. I laughed because if I didn't, I have exploded right there. Laura gave me that look, you know, the 1-inch, let go, James. But steel was forming in her eyes, too. Karen scribbled something, barked a few more rules about lawns, trash, dogs, parking, then clicked away like she'd just delivered the law of the land. That day, I didn't get how dangerous she was. Annoying, controlling, sure but dangerous? Laura knew better, and she wasn't exaggerating. That night, after we'd unpacked essentials, she said, low and calm, she's going to test us. People like her never like difference. I shrugged, thinking, okay, yeah, Karen's a nightmare, but she's not criminal. Weeks passed. Karen escalated like clockwork. Letters first 1-2 days after we moved in. Violation, unauthorized structural ramp. She claimed it clashed with the neighborhood's aesthetic. I read it at the kitchen table, muttering about aesthetic harmony, while Laura sipped tea like she was plotting the perfect chess move. Next notice? Excessive medical equipment on display. I nearly fell out of my chair laughing. Wheelchair. Oxygen tank apparently offensive to her precious sense of order. Laura only gave me that tight-lipped smile. She was deliberate, she said, documenting patterns, testing limits. And she wasn't just sending letters. Karen started full-on surveillance, snapping photos of ramps, chairs, vans, pretending to check her mail while eyeballing every inch of our property. Gossip started too. At the grocery store, whispers followed us. That poor man's wife making the neighborhood look run down. Laura noticed, of course, but she never cracked. She rolled her chair taller, straightened back, smiled calm, sharp a warning in itself. She's scared of me, Laura said one night, porch lights flickering over cicadas. Bullies only feel powerful when people cower. I don't cower. That unsettles her. And I believed her. But I still didn't realize how far this was going to go. Then came a mailbox. Neon orange violation tags plastered all over, 5 of them fluttering like some kind of HOA crime scene lawn, trash, parking, unapproved structure, unsightly equipment. Karen had gone down a checklist she invented herself. That night, I was ready to call the cops. Laura? Calm as ever. Let her dig her own grave. She doesn't know who she's dealing with. Her words, they gave me chills. And sure enough, the very next Saturday, the confrontation exploded. I was mowing the lawnies, precisely 2.5 inches to spite Karen when she came marching down, clipboard glinting, sunglasses on, smug as ever. Stopped at our driveway, snapping photos. Afternoon, I said, killing the mower. Need another photo for your scrapbook? She tilted her head, smirked. You're out of compliance, mister. Taylor, you people really aren't a good fit for Pinehurst Meadows. You people, I repeated, teeth gritting. What? People with wheelchairs? Or just people who don't bow down to you? Her jaw tightened, the mask slipping. She leaned in. Consider this your last warning. Just then, Laura rolled onto the porch, eyes sharp, voice steady. Or what? She asked. Karen sneered and stomped off, leaving the threat hanging like a storm cloud. And that's when it happened. The hiss. My wife's scream. The spray. Time slowed. The sunny Saturday turned into a battlefield. But here's the kicker: Laura didn't flinch. Not once. Her calm, deadly composure never wavered, and the moment Karen realized she'd just assaulted a woman who could literally ruin her life, the smirk vanished. You could see the first crack in the armor of this so-called queen of Pinehurst Meadows. From that day on, the HOA harassment didn't just stop. It backfired spectacularly. Karen learned at Payne Fulleth that some people don't just follow rules, they enforce justice, even when it's long overdue. Laura had turned the tables. Her gavel, her mind, her sheer resilience, each a weapon Karen had never imagined facing. And me? I just watched, part terrified, part in awe, as she methodically dismantled the illusion of her authority. By sunset, Karen was retreating, clipboard abandoned, dignity in tatters, while our porch lights glowed warm, the air filled with the hum of cicadas and a sense of quiet victory. But the story didn't end there. The whispers, the letters, the petty rules, they might come back. Pinehurst Meadows isn't done yet. And honestly, that's what makes you want to share your story, right? What would you have done if you were in our shoes? Comment below, let me know if you'd stand your ground, or if you'd fold. This one, it's about courage, about justice, and about showing that some people, no matter how entitled, can be taught a lesson they'll never forget. Yeah, so here's where it gets really intense. Karen didn't just stop at threats, she lunged. Literally, I swear, her pepper spray hissed through the air like some villain in a low-budget action flick, and Laura's scream, God, it still haunts me, cut through the Saturday calm. Her wheelchair rolled back as she clawed at her eyes, coughing, gasping for air, and all the neighbors froze like extras in some suburban nightmare. And there was Karen, standing there like she'd just performed a civic duty, smirking and saying, community safety comes first. Can you imagine? As if assaulting a disabled woman were a heroic act. But that's when the whole neighborhood and Karen herself realized she had underestimated Laura. My wife isn't just anyone. Laura's a judge, one of those rare people who can stare down a room full of criminals without blinking. She might be sitting in a wheelchair, but make no mistake, she holds authority in spades. And this HOA tyrant had just poked a bear she couldn't possibly contain. I rushed to her side, yanking the spray bottle out of Karen's hand, my heart hammering like a drumline gone rogue. Get back, I shouted, but Laura, ever the calm force of nature, sat upright, hands steady, eyes cold. Her voice, though hoarse from the spray, cut through the tension like a scalpel. You're done. And just like that, the entire dynamic shifted. Karen's smug smirk faltered, replaced by something almost panic-stricken. Let me back up a sec. This wasn't just a one-off freakout. Weeks prior, Karen had been building this meticulous, passive-aggressive dossier against us. Every letter, every complaint, every violation she claimed we'd committed wasn't random. She had imagined a pattern, and in her mind, we were the Villamintsa family with a wheelchair ramp, medical equipment, and the audacity to breathe differently than the rest of Pinehurst Meadows. Lawn too high? Check. Trash cans out of sight? Check. Vehicle parked improperly? Check. It was like living in a neighborhood curated by a tyrant with a ruler and clipboard, and every day she tested how far she could push us. And here's the twist that blew my mind. While Karen thought she was orchestrating fear, she was actually digging her own grave. Every time she issued a notice, every time she snapped another photo of the ramp or the wheelchair, Laura quietly documented it all. Videos, photos, notes. She was building her own case, but not just to fight back. She was teaching me something: how to turn someone else's obsession with control into evidence of their own recklessness. The next escalation? Oh, it came fast. Karen started showing up more aggressively, clipboard swinging like a weapon, eyes darting around, hunting for noncompliance. She didn't even bother hiding her disdain. One afternoon, I was mowing the lawn because, yes, apparently timing your grass cutting to annoy the HOA is a legitimate form of protest, and Karen appeared, sunglasses on, snapping photos like a paparazzo, grinning that smug grin like she owned the world. I killed the mower and called out, "Need another shot for your scrapbook?" Her lips curled, and she said, "You're out of compliance again. You people really aren't a good fit for Pinehurst Meadows." You people? I asked, my blood boiling. People with wheelchairs? Or people who refused to bow to a petty dictator with a clipboard? Her jaw tightened, and I saw a first real crack in her armor, but instead of backing down, she leaned closer and spat, "Consider this your last warning." And then Laura rolled out onto the porch, her presence calm but unyielding, and said, "Or what?" That one question, simple as it was, froze Karen in place. She turned, stomped off, and left her threat hanging like a storm cloud over our driveway. And I realized right then this wasn't just harassment anymore. This was war, and Laura had been preparing for battle long before Karen even realized it. I still remember that Saturday afternoon, the air heavy with summer heat, when Karen crossed the line completely. There I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard shouting outside. I stepped out, and there she was, clipboard under one arm, sunglasses reflecting the sun, the same smug smile, but this time, it wasn't just about letters or fines. It was action. She was marching down our ramp like she owned it, expecting fear. Laura stayed seated, calm as ever, her wheelchair steady, her eyes locked on Karen. "Mrs. Taylor," Karen said, voice sharp, cutting across the yard like glass, "I've given you ample warnings." And then it happened. The hiss of the pepper spray, Laura's gasp, and suddenly the quiet suburban afternoon exploded into chaos. But here's the kicker: Laura didn't panic. She rolled back slightly, shielded her face, and then, with the precision and authority that could command a courtroom, she brought down her gavel on the edge of her lap. Not literally, but it might as well have been. Karen's bravado faltered. The mask slipped. In that moment, the predator realized she was facing something far beyond petty HOA enforcement. The neighbors? They watched, frozen, as the queen of pettiness met the reality of authority she couldn't intimidate. Karen tried to recover, to muster some semblance of control, but the atmosphere had changed. Laura wasn't just a target. She was the storm. And from that day forward, everything Karen tried, every notice, every glare, every photo was met with calm, calculated defiance. Weeks later, when the HOA board tried to enforce the violations, every complaint fell apart. Not because we cowered or argued, but because Laura had anticipated every move. She documented, collected evidence, and positioned herself perfectly. Karen's so-called authority crumbled under the weight of her own obsession, and what had started as harassment ended with her looking like a fool in front of the entire neighborhood. The satisfying part? Watching Karen try to maintain her facade while knowing her reign was over. She had underestimated us completely. And as for Laura, she sat on the porch, calm, sipping her tea, the very picture of quiet power, and just let it all unfold. But here's the thing, the story doesn't end neatly. Karen is still there, lurking, still clutching her clipboard, still hoping for some slip-up. And every time I see her across the street, I realize that in Pinehurst Meadows, the battle between pettiness and principle never truly ends. So, now it's your turn. If you've ever faced someone like Karen, or watched a bully think they could break someone with strength and integrity, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. What would you have done? Is justice about standing tall, or waiting for the right moment? Share your thoughts, your outrage, your triumphs. And yeah, keep an eye on your own neighborhood. You never know when a queen of pettiness might be hiding behind a clipboard, waiting to strike.